Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Emerging Technology Community Roundtable. My name is Xiaochen Zhang, the host of this roundtable, and I'm the CEO of FinTech for Good and also an organization called AI 2030. And today we have a very exciting panel, and this event is co-organized together with the jobs for the future. And we care a lot about emerging technology. We also care about how emerging technology is going to shape the workplace and workforce. And of course, that's we also want to discuss about how organizations can prepare yourself to attract the top talent, and you as a professional, how you can get yourself ready for the next week of excitement. So with that, I'd like to just have my panel to introduce yourself and start from Simon. You're muted. Sorry, you're still.
Yep, I got it. Sorry, I do it all the time. Hi, Simone Berry. I'm the CEO and co-founder of POC Lab. We are a creative and virtual experiential studio that breaks down the boundaries between brands and consumers through meaningful digital experiences. We really partner to create games, digital identities, culture-driven strategies that connect consumers to the digital world. Our current project is with Walmart, where we use the 50th anniversary of hip hop to celebrate Black and Brown artists and brought over 25 artists into the metaverse for the first time, where they were able to participate and really see what this kind of emerging world of gaming and metaverse really is. So we're very high on social impact. We believe it equals success impact, and very excited to have this conversation. Oh, this is fun.
Thank you. And let's move to Daniela.
Sure. Thank you for having me here, Xiaochen, and fantastic. I love this new view of all of us on the screen together. I love it. My name is Daniela Barbosa. I am the executive director of the Hyperledger Foundation, where since 2016 has really been the home for enterprise blockchain projects, open source projects. The Hyperledger Foundation is part of the Linux Foundation, which is an umbrella of hundreds of open source projects. And these are code projects that really drive, some of the most important technologies in the world. In 2016, when Hyperledger was formed, blockchain was still pretty nascent in regards to how enterprises and governments were being used. And we're really focusing on, bringing the best developers and the best ecosystem together to really build out open source communities for blockchain. And blockchain, obviously, I always say this, and I think, you'll hear a little bit of this from me today, is eventually we'll stop talking about blockchain, because blockchain will be just incorporated into everything that we do, everything that we digitally touch, and even offline things that we need to build digital trust for. So I'm very excited about today's panels to really help people understand how to get involved, and more importantly, where your employees should be dedicating some of their time and resources to some of the ecosystem work that's happening. So thanks again for having us.
Perfect. And Kia?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kia Davis, and I'm a principal at Artemis Connection, a boutique advisory firm. I'm also the head of L&D there. And our clients range everything from big tech to nonprofit, and we're small and scrappy, and we look to use technology wherever it fits, wherever possible. So we have a lot of those conversations. I also am an instructor at the University of Washington teaching entrepreneurship for the continuing ed program. I published the book Flashpoint 100, Radical Growth in 100 Days, and that's really focused on small business owners who want to really transform their companies and don't have a lot of time to do it and want to be really efficient with their resources. And then I also have a bit of a specialization in payments and fintech as well. And I've been involved in co-authoring some papers on the future of fintech for the UK government and looking at public policy and its impact on entrepreneurship and digital entrepreneurship for Google and a number of other areas. So it's something I'm really quite passionate about, particularly when it comes to the access and the equity issues. And I'm really looking forward to the discussion today. So thanks.
Awesome. Last but not least, Keith.
Hi, everyone. I'm Keith Soljacek. I'm the EVP Head of Innovation at Publicis Media. I'm 16 years here at the company and have held innovation roles for nearly 10 years. I'm incredibly passionate about emerging technology and media and how it applies to brand experience. And Publicis Group invests heavily into innovation, into technology, and to the types of experiences that will drive business transformation for the clients we work with. Personally, I'm very passionate in all of the Web3 emerging technology spaces, and everything to blockchain, smart contracts, NFTs, and tokens, XR technologies, and artificial intelligence, and really the orchestration and the combination of all of these emerging technologies pushing us into the third connected age. I've had quite a great experience working with brands here at Publicis Group, with everyone from American Express to Whirlpool to Disney, and most recently working on Web3 experiences for Pizza Hut, Samsung, Macy's, and more. So like I said, I'm very passionate about the space, but also what it offers from a societal good standpoint as well. And I participate in the Ad Council's EMT committee and using emerging technology to drive social good. So I'll say passionate one last time, but I'm also passionate about how this transforms our everyday lives and the workforces we all participate in every day. So excited for the conversation today.
Awesome. As everyone can see that we have a very diverse panel and brought rich experience from different technology sectors, use cases, and ranging really from blockchain to AI to metaverse, and it's pretty broad. And my first question to the whole panel is that, could you highlight some of the most groundbreaking emerging technology that are currently transforming the landscape of business and society? And what makes this innovation particularly exciting or impactful for you? And start from Daniela.
Sure. Wonderful. So, I'm going to focus a bit on just a specific part of the blockchain tech stack, because I do think it's important for business people to really understand. And Keith made mention of smart contracts. So for those of you who might not be, familiar with what a smart contract is in the blockchain world, it's really, automatic digital agreements, right? So they're automatic. They're digital agreements that are stored on a blockchain. That could be a public blockchain like Ethereum, for example, or a permission consortium chain. In both cases, whether it's on the public blockchain or on a permission consortium chain, they automatically carry out the terms of the agreement. So you make a contract, and because the things in the contract are completed and the code basically says these things were completed, it's automatically carried out, right? So there's a lot of talk about AI and how it can, facilitate a lot of business processes. Smart contracts do that, but they're codified in the code. Right. So, for example, when you are paying for something that a job that gets done, you don't need a middleman. You don't need an extra person to validate that work was done. The contract itself will do it. Why is that important? Why should business and technical leaders understand the smart contracts and how it's impacting? It's really, it makes things quicker, right? It makes transactions quicker. And, today in the world, and whether it's supply chain or even healthcare or any industry, it could take days or weeks to execute a contract and get payment on it. So think about it from a financial inclusion and an ability to be able to recapitalize that, instead of waiting for 2 weeks to get paid, you automatically get paid for the work that you've done. And therefore, then you could apply that money to new ventures that you're doing. doing, right? Purchase new materials and do that. So making transactions quicker, allowing real-time updates. Everybody kind of understands where the money has gone or where it's going with privacy-enabled folks. So people always say, well, if I put it on the blockchain, then everybody could see what I'm doing. No, there are privacy-preserving things that you can do, and many enterprises do as well. Making it more accurate. So one of the things is, if you think about invoicing or supply chain or any use cases, healthcare, as I mentioned before, human errors in contracts are costly, right? When somebody makes an error in that contract, it could be costly. It could be millions of dollars. So making it cheaper and faster are two reasons. Making it more reliable, right? Trust is initial in business and how you operate in marketplaces with one another. So if you think about the trust and transparency, every transaction is recorded on that blockchain and makes it tamper-proof. So you have a smart contract, you know people can't change it, and you can see it. And once again, keep in mind that you can have public smart contracts on public blockchains, but also on permission chains where only the parties that should be seeing that transaction can see it. But trust and transparency in smart contracts is doing it. We hear a lot about compliance or regulatory compliance, especially in industries that require regulatory compliance, whether in finance or pharmaceutical. Smart contracts also can be programmed to adhere to those regulations. Compliance people really run away sometimes from when they hear blockchain, they run away. They should actually run towards it, right? They should think about how do they use smart contracts and this technology to ensure compliance in your organization and across the ecosystems that you bottom. And overall, new business models and opportunities, right? So when you think about smart contracts, they can enable new things that maybe your company is not enabled to do today because of the heavy weight that processes put together. So whether it's decentralized finance or tokenization of assets, really unavailable opportunities, especially for that smaller and mid tier companies and regions around the world that in the past has just been too costly to move into these new markets. So smart contracts, if you take one thing out of it, is I think one of the techs that people should do some research and get involved in.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think this is a pretty deep dive into the smart contract from changing the existing business model or just to make the existing business model cheaper, faster, and address the existing problem, or creating new models where that's just bring new additional benefits or addressing problem in a different way, and as a new financial instrument, all that. I think that smart contract can really bring a lot of new powers. And Simone?
So that was amazing. And it's probably the first time when people talk about smart contracts, even I am in Web3 and I glaze over. So that was a really incredible example of just a practical way that we can. And I love what you said, that hopefully we won't be talking about this technology. I tend to lean into the creative. I'm in a very creative world. So I'm really excited about the ability to now monetize creativity and looking at the convergence of Web3, AI, metaverse, gaming, and just this 3D content that's really being built, and the ability to kind of self-stat. Like, we're looking at the future of new consumer engagements, how marketing, advertising, retail, brand experiences, all of that is going to change based on technology, because we're now in an attention economy. How do brands hold attention? Gaming, metaverse, these types of experiences are going to change the way we interact with brands and how we participate as consumers and brands. And I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity, because a lot of these creative tools are really allowing us to rethink what creativity is, or what a creative field is, or what an artist is, which is allowing gatekeeping for these areas. I was watching this thing and it was like, when we're all gone and we're children, we're all drawing. We all think we're creative until someone decides, no, this is the box of creativity. And you are now a person that's creative. And you can now make money at this because this is the reason. Versus, here is what I'm creative about. And really, nominally, people of color are usually the creative class and driving that. And there's been a lot of gatekeeping blocking us out. So I'm extremely excited about the AI tools and the future of creativity. And those that have not been able to actively participate, we're seeing even through Web3, NFTs, artists being able to monetize on that creativity. and really not needing outside financial moderation from brands or people or anyone, just community, to be able to build this new kind of business and role and startup.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think what you have brought to our attention is really, this inclusive part of the dynamic where that's with the emerging technology, and then how marginalized the group or the new majority can really just to convert that creativity or leveraging that to monetize and all that. I think that is really exciting. And now let's move to Keith. You're muted.
My turn on that one. Well, I was ready in case someone else mentioned AI before I did with a backup, but I'll jump in with artificial intelligence, and I'm sure we can spend an entire panel talking about the transformational capabilities of artificial intelligence, but in the context of today and the introduction of publicly accessible or widely accessible large language models powering AI tools. And that's really the transformational change that we've really gone through in the past 12 months as a society. We're mostly learning what's possible, what's capable. It's very much experimentation phase. The fact that for a low monthly cost now of a subscription to ChatGPT, you can nearly have all of the world's intelligence synthesized for you in a matter of seconds. That's as powerful to me as as the internet was when I was a young child, and that was just accessibility of information, not synthesization, right? So yes, I could access it, I could contextualize it for myself, and I could apply my own experience to what I was able to research. With artificial intelligence, specifically synthetic media and generative AI, that synthesis is happening at lightning speed. So now, as opposed to contextualizing it, myself, I have access to this tool, contextualization is provided to me, and then I can apply my own experience and my own intelligence on top of what generative AI provides back to me. As a society, and I think as where this technology, the capabilities of the technology today, we're short of full automation. And really, do we want full automation of generative AI, right? Humans in the loop is actually incredibly powerful as well. So I think the democratization of intelligence is absolutely transformational, and generative AI is powering that. And where, the jobs of the future and the workforce of the future, this isn't really about the future unless you're talking about tomorrow, which is technically the future, because AI is transforming knowledge workers' jobs today. If you previously had institutional knowledge and that's what you were paid to provide to the company you worked for, that is very much at risk. But what's not at risk is your capability to learn it and advance. And so the innovation, in particular in generative AI, what makes it impactful is where you can take what you know today and apply it to the future of your own work. So while it's scary and unknown today, it should be incredibly exciting if you're curious.
Awesome. Now we have smart contract, NFT, and AI, and Kia. And so what would be your focus?
Great. So I had the sneaking suspicion that AI would come up, so I'm going to go ahead and +1 that. I'll also say that I am a techno optimist, but I consider myself a cautious techno optimist, because one of the things that I look at is not just what are the technologies and what's out there, but who's making them and what might be their mindset, right? So, and some of the things too that sometimes pop up in the news are areas where there are a lot of emerging technologies. They're making some really great strides. There's a lot happening, but they're hidden. They're not consumer facing, but they might have this impact on us as a society, as a as an ecosystem, and perhaps we need to really think about how that all comes to be. And one company in particular that comes to mind that's a great example of this is Clearview, the facial recognition company. And most consumers would never have heard of them. There's no reason for them to hear of them. They do this facial recognition, and the way they do it is so precise and so comprehensive that it can't help but have this massive impact on what data is actually being captured from people and how that data can be used, because Clearview, for example, works with law enforcement. So what Clearview can do is, let's say you have been incredibly careful about staying off the grid, you're not on social media, you don't even have a smartphone, absolutely no problem. You go to the grocery store in a hoodie and sunglasses. If there was someone in the line in front of you that took a selfie, guess what? You're in their system. You're in their system, right? You haven't signed anything, you haven't, uploaded a single photo. And that information, again, is being passed to law enforcement in ways that you would have maybe absolutely no idea about, no control over. And so there are some states in the US that are passing laws preventing that and kind of being very consumer centric in terms of you have to give consent in order for your data to be used in this way. And so Clearview specifically might be reined in a bit, but you can certainly see where AI, and particularly some enterprise level or institutional or governmental level applications of it, could integrate in a way that consumers don't even have to type in a prompt, right? And it still might have a disproportionate impact on, again, it could be law enforcement. So what the police think that we might be doing or up to, in the future, it could be employment or certainly things like, loans. So you could understand why a bank would want to collect all the information that it has at its disposal, and it's not necessarily going to tell you how it's making some of those decisions. So I personally love AI, I use it a lot, but I do think quite a bit about whether it's facial recognition, whether it's the metaverse, whether it's AI and large language models. What are some of those applications that might be a little bit more in the background that are nevertheless going to disproportionately affect consumers' lives, but they may not even have an idea that it's running there and it's guiding some of those decisions that really matter.
Yeah, and again, that I think emerging technology bring a lot of exciting new solution, but also bring a lot of new concerns. And I think privacy is one of the type of concern that everyone need to just be aware of, and who owns your data and how are your data being used, and then are you being compensated? Have you give authorization, and what will those data usage impact your life, and both as a consumer and any other roles that you may have, as a member of the society. So I think those are definitely very important discussion points, and of course that's each emerging technology also bring a lot of interesting impact, to the workforce, and especially there's new roles emerging, from the emerging technology. There might be roles which are being eliminated as well, and the emerging technology also create new dynamics in the workplace. And so, can you give examples and how emerging technology way that you focus on and making impact to the jobs and the workforce? And this time maybe start from Kia.
Great. So I had I caught up with a client last night over lunch because we're wrapping up a project. This client is the head of a nonprofit. They do some fantastic things in the healthcare space, very analog. It's it's about children and healthcare, and they have a number of internal issues about finding documents and people, keeping their calendars up to date, and all of these very standard things that have been happening for generations and for decades. And suddenly I'm able to have a conversation with him about where can technology play a role for this very analog organization in a way that is a really easy lift, is a really easy implementation, as long as perhaps there's one person on the staff who can shoulder a lot of the work, and AI can tailor its approach to how folks like to interact with technology. So I'll give an example. The EA, it turns out, the executive assistant loves technology, so that's fantastic. Where can she set something up to play a role so that they have a custom like search bar that can do a deep dive into their documents? They're Microsoft users, so it's probably going to be Copilot. And so the folks that are terrified of technology, the folks that told me I didn't even have a laptop until COVID and I had to get one, that it's easy enough even for them. Because right now, particularly in some spaces like nonprofit, the second you say technology or implementation, they run, they're hanging up the phone. But when you can start talking about building custom user interfaces that work exactly how folks want to work, maybe it's just a nudge on their calendar. Hey, you need to do this. Or maybe it's just an automation. Okay, you've submitted document 1. You now have 10 days to submit document 2. And it is completely seamless from an end user perspective. They don't need to read a manual. They don't need to attend a session. They just completely continue to go in the flow of work. And this is coming to them in a different way. For me as an advisor, that's something that is remarkably different than the conversations I had to have a year ago, where we did a HRIS implementation and HR information system. And it was a 6-month program of Q&As and office hours and rollouts and manuals. And just that simple shift of saying, actually, you don't need to learn anything new. It's going to all be there for you. And the kind of training that you need is going to be right there when you need it. That is fundamentally different. And I think quite a lot about inclusion. And from the perspective of someone who might be not comfortable with technology, that's fantastic for them, right? It doesn't require them to know a lot of different terms or had a very specific experience. So that's one thing that I'm really excited about. A lot of the tools, even the enterprise tools, are really new. So I'm curious how they're going to really roll that out and stay true to that user-centric model. But that's something that I think could be a tremendous game changer. There's no longer kind of the folks who are in the know and the folks who aren't in the know. The people are able to get access to interfaces and to solutions that really work exactly at the level of their knowledge and their ability.
Thank you. And Keith, I saw that you're not nodding or shaking.
Oh, I mean, everyone's making such incredible points and has such great experience in this space. So I can't help but nod in agreement, because I think we're all of the same mindset. And Xiaochen, I'm looking at my notes, and I had written a response about AI, but I'm throwing that one out because we can talk about that over and over, and I'm sure it's a point that's been made before. So I'm gonna pull a wild card one here, and to me, a real emerging technology that's reshaping the future of work is tokenization of experience. And we're at the very beginning of what this actually means, but the impacts can be incredibly profound down the line. Today, there is an incredible amount of trust in everyone's experience and resume. And I provide my resume. It says this is the school I went to, some of the professional certificates maybe I've achieved in my work experience. And the extent it takes to validate that is beyond what actually hiring professionals can do. So there is so much trust that goes into just hiring professionals based on their work experience. But in the near future, and through tokenization of experience and essentially credentials, where that university degree that you achieved can be backed by a token on chain, or that professional, that continuing education class that you took to learn about a new topic or some emerging topic. You can, if you're tokenizing that now, you can prove all of your experience, right? And bring that into a job interview and say, you don't have to question, you don't have to bring trust to this. This is my experience. Now, can we talk about how I fit into your workforce, as opposed to maybe spending that precious 20 minutes in an interview just credentializing yourself and proving you went to the school you went to, you took the class you took, and how that then applies to your professional experience. So I think that moving past credentialization with tokenization of professional experience actually gets us a lot closer to the right person and company fit, as opposed to just who can convince that interviewer that they have the experience they need. So I wanted to pull a wild card there. I also think that tokenization of experience can really improve or just our workforce broadly, right? If you have better qualified professionals sitting in those positions that require qualified professionals, you've just got an elevated workforce. So I'm going to throw out that one that I think is really going to reshape the future of work. And as we see this over kind of maybe the next 5 years really start to take off. And I've seen some of these. I think it's Ad Age who is tokenizing their 30 under 30, right? You can actually prove you are one of those 30 top professionals of the year. But then as we move through this now with AI and universities really questioning what is the nature of education when intelligence is at your fingertips, this continuing education and tokenization of that, I think, is going to be even more important for this massive transition in the future of work.
Thank you. And also, in the chat box, and the demo was asking about, the perspective on the intersection of AI and blockchain. I think this is a very good example where that's AI and blockchain working together, where that's a lot of folks are using AI to create, for example, resumes and all that. So then tokenization as a part of validate that resume. And combine two, that not only that individuals can really just create this or bring a level of professionalism into the resume writing to and reducing that technicality and improve who the presenting themselves. But then from tokenization side, that how to validate that this is written with the pure fact, not just hallucination or imagination. And I think from the hiring process, combining both are really important. And Simone?
I'm not sure how to really follow the both of them. That was incredible. There's not much left on the table to discuss, but I can kind of look at it from a startup perspective. And again, I tend to be a humanist when we're talking about technology. I tend to lean in that way more than a technologist. I think that when we're looking at just reevaluating, as I mentioned earlier, creativity, but also reevaluating intelligence, we're going to have tools from shifting from machines helping us to us helping machines. The way that education, the way that we're now kind of participating in what is institutional learning, a lot of it is already going to be able to be solved. There's over 120 different AI products that lean into productivity, marketing, chatbots, design, writing. All of these can be used to self-start an entire new educational wave. It's not the same as you need to go to here for school this year, continue on this kind of linear path. These technologies are breaking all of those paths. And as a very small startup, I am able to compete with larger agencies because of these tools. And I'm also able to expand our runway and cost because we don't need all the filler. We're able to automate a lot of the things that I would have to hire someone for. So when you're even looking at people starting businesses, there's going to be a lot more co-pilots versus just coders. So I think from the business perspective of institutional, how they're going to incorporate it, but how startups are now leaning and being able to be swifter and faster, and our ability to really pivot because we have these tools. Like just from a perspective, honestly, of a pitch deck, you have no idea how many decks I need to put out in a day. My team is very small. The fact that I can now bang those out so quickly allows me to spend more time on strategy, creativity. And I think this is one of the most important parts where we're looking at augmentation versus automation of the human validation. So to me, creativity, again, humanist, no AI is going to ever be as creative as a human being. There's emotional complexities and layers. So you're always going to need that touch. But what AI is incredible at is taking your special skill or taking your creativity, your raw ideas, and really shaping and driving that. And when we look at a productivity standpoint, being able to have time to actually think, to actually have strategy, to create, is something that we've honestly, especially in America, we're just heads down, work, work, work. What is productivity? And the ability now to kind of step back and strategize or just have those moments, I think that there's a lot of, that's kind of where we get into this replacement element. That's the uncomfortable place, and we need not to be uncomfortable. We need to lean into it because it's really more automation. Yes, some jobs will go, but a lot of jobs will pop up because we're not looking at the same kind of institutionalized linear learning path. Additionally, in like career development, when you look at what people are really wanting, they want career development, they want workplace flexibility, meaningful work, and then compensation is coming in. These are all the things that these tools are going to be able to provide your workforce culture. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you. And again, I think, especially with the introduction of Gen AI, that's, this empowerment is really very exciting for many creators or other professions. And you have a very powerful tools or assistants in your hand, and then facilitate all that. But also, we also see many of the creators and go on the street and down the street and see that, and now that's our work also impact in another direction. So it's not black and white, but there's definitely both excitement and also there's some concerns. That's what he's mentioned, that the responsible AI part is critical. And Daniela.
Excellent. I agree. I think a couple of things, and I'll address the question around how blockchain and AI intersect, because blockchain and AI have been intersecting since the start of blockchain, and probably since the start of, if you think about blockchain as decentralized technology, since the start of AI for sure. What, and Keith kind of pointed this out, what is different is that what ChatGPT brought to market is that interactive, the generative AI and the interactive tooling. We all would wish that blockchain had a UI that was easy to understand, that was easy to implement, that was easy to basically become, core of these systems, because I think blockchain adoption and the benefits that it comes to bringing efficiencies to market, bringing democratization of these technologies to market would have been, very fastly accelerated. So I'm very jealous of generative AI and the tooling that basically was released from, to an end user, right? I mean, my mother can use ChatGPT. She doesn't have to be an expert technologist to do that. So I think that is good. But the blockchain, there is a lot of interaction. If you think about any supply chain traceability network, a use case out there that is using blockchain as one of the core, right, technologies, if you look at any of those systems, blockchain, if as defined what blockchain is, whether it's smart contracts or other parts of the blockchain stack, it's just a small portion of what actually is deployed from a technology perspective, right? It's just the media kind of has made such a big media of what blockchain is. So think of blockchain as just a piece of it. What excites me, and I think Kia pointed this out as well as Simone and Keith as well, is from an emerging technology, how is this reshaping the future of work? Is that it will allow us to be more creative, right? When I talked about smart contracts as one of the tech pieces to understand, why is it important? Because it actually takes out all that back office boring work. Nobody wants to do boring work, right? Nobody wants to show up at work, log into the computer, and from 9 to 5 have to fill in data sets, right? Or from 9 to 5 have to like look at something. Is this correct? Is this correct? Is this correct? Let's take boring out of work and allow people, regardless of what education they have, where in society they are coming from, what part of the world they're in, to really be able to put creativity and put their experiences into the work that they do. So emerging technologies and reshaping the future of work is allowing us to be more creative, allowing us to be more inclusive. And whether it's blockchain or AI or the next emerging tech that people will put on their LinkedIn in 6 months or 1 year, that's what we, that's I think the what will reshape the future of work. And that's what I'm excited. So I get to work every day, right? To see the future that we can actually build for our children and our grandchildren, in allowing them to be creative, allowing them to be artists, for example, and make money, right? Allowing them to, be data analysts and create value on top of that data entry that they do. And I think that's the future of work for us. And I'm hopeful that's the future of work for us.
That's awesome. I think, that's taking it boring out of work is very powerful, right? And in that, I would definitely use that in the future. And I like that framing. And so, as everyone have shared that the future of work are different compared with, without emerging technology, but each individual or professionals are educated in a certain way and have work experience in another way, and now you have emerging technology which on a daily basis introducing new business models and new operational models, and where that's many of the professionals also feel challenged, and this is constant non-stop learning, and also the threat of of fear, even of losing their job, or their skill sets may not be relevant in the near future. So how can professionals prepare themselves facing the the emerging technology driven innovation, and how important it is to continue the learning journey, and then be stay adaptive, stay open-minded? This time, start from Keith.
Well, I mean, I know in my professional experience, being curious and ever learning is a requirement. That's not a nice to have. Especially in emerging technology, because one thing we know is technology is always emerging. It is always evolving. It is always changing. You can't pin down emerging technology, because as soon as you do, it's moved on, it's grown, it's evolved, or it's scaled in its accessibility. So if we are very purely answering this question and how professionals can adapt and change to the rapid advancements in technology that are happening today, it takes 1, dedication, and 2, curiosity. So dedication, you've got to carve out some of your time. Ultimately, and for someone who's not responsible for this in their daily job, right? Like myself, something around 3 to 5% of your time every year, you can allocate, right, to learning and staying up with everything in the rapid advancements in technology. This is just staying up to date, something in the realm of 3 to 5% of your time every year to stay relevant and to know what's happening today and what's in the near future. If you want to go deeper and you actually want to be ahead of rapid change, now you're investing maybe more than up to 10% of your time in learning, growing, and experiencing technology and the advancements of technology. And then if you want to actually apply that, right, and you want to be an evangelist for this and you're passionate about it, apply it to the company that you work for. This takes the most passion and the most dedication, because companies, by and large, will not change because it's inevitable. They'll change because of a business reason, right? And if emerging technology meets the moment for business need. And you're the individual inside of that business to identify that moment, to identify that opportunity, and bring it to your leadership and bring it to your management. That is where you can really affect change. So if you're starting by investing some of your time to level up your skills and level up your capability at work, then you take that a step further and say, I want to be ahead of everyone. And then even that third step to say, I want to be an evangelist. These are really the levels that you can participate in and figure out in there what you're comfortable with. But don't do nothing because that is so risky right now, is to sit back and do absolutely nothing and just let this change come to you.
Awesome. I think you give a lot of people a strategy already and how to write with emerging technology. And Kia.
Absolutely. I second that to a huge degree. It's, it's not going to come to you. You're probably going to have to be a bit proactive in terms of staying on top of things. But the good news is AI lends itself really well to being learned, right? Exceptionally well to being learned. And when you think of it also in the context of the fact that some of these, huge tech platforms that have both the enterprise and the consumer applications for relatively low cost or that are ubiquitous. So Google Workspace, most of us have a Gmail account. Microsoft, for those of us who have PCs, a lot of them invested a huge amount of money in AI, and they can't wait to get people excited about it, right? They're not gatekeeping. It's a different model for Adobe, for example, right? So looking at where you can get information, whether it's from them, I highlight them in particular because for example, if you have, it depends on the package you have, but if you have Google Workspace and you have one of the higher packages, a little known free or included, I should say, feature are all of these little mini courses on how to use their tools, how to use other tools, productivity. They have a whole little mini Google University just attached to Workspace. So there are already things there that are customized to that. And of course, Google has Bard as well as some other AI tools. So you can learn kind of as you're doing. Microsoft is having an AI conference in January. I think I mentioned I have a nonprofit client that's going there. And then again, just, being super proactive. So at my firm at Artemis, we are putting together a little unofficial AI working group. And all that means is a bunch of us are trying different tools and we're going to sit together and really align on some use cases and align on some tools to test from different perspectives and just check in on how well those are performing against that. And then we'll take an internal view and then we'll go, we'll kind of advocate for more widespread adoption of this tool versus another, whether it's note taking or slide writing or marketing or whatnot. So there are ways to do it both, just on your own, and teaching yourself. There are ways to make it a bit more social and to compare notes. But it is going to be really important to take that view of just, okay, what do I need to know? And just playing around, ChatGPT, just play around, start typing stuff in, see what comes out. I would do some basic, Googling on things like liability or safety and whatnot. So ChatGPT in particular just recently started saying, oh, actually, don't tell us anything private or proprietary. Did folks know that? I don't think they did. We didn't think about it, right? You never had to really worry about that so much with Google. So there are a few tiny things that folks need to know up front, but then honestly, go crazy. Do your your end of year holiday cards using Midjourney or Dolly, the image generating apps, play around. And from that, you start to get a sense of how you could apply them to personal productivity tools in work as well.
Thank you. And Daniela?
I'll take a slightly different approach of not the individual, but the actual what your companies can do in order to facilitate your staff or your workforce to incorporate this emerging technology into your work field. One of the things we've seen very successfully in the blockchain ecosystem space is, for example, having companies, and this could be done exactly the same way with AI, for example, is having companies put teams together. And I think, Kia, you were kind of hinting to that, right? Putting teams together and saying, okay, what is a problem or an opportunity that as a business we need to solve? Okay, and putting that into as a like, whether it's a hackathon, and putting together teams of both technical and business, putting teams that are back office, finance and front office, customer service and sales together and saying, okay, here's a problem or here's an opportunity that we want to solve, and let's do a hackathon or let's do a competition, right? People love to gamify things around how we use these technologies based on the constraints that we have as an organization, and put forward new ways to do that. And I think, that is one ways that you can keep up with the rapid advancements of technologies, is incorporate them into the way that your cross-functional teams do. So we've seen that very successfully with hackathons. Here's the business problem. What business problem do you want to solve? Let's put together business and technical people. Let's look at technologies, a lot of these AI applications, for example, and tooling, but let's look at, blockchain specific resources, or other types of technologies that are out there, and do that. So I would recommend, and I don't think you need to be a big company to do that. You can be a small company and come up with task forces with individuals and say, okay, for the next quarter, we're going to solve this problem collaboratively with the tools that we have access to, or maybe, evaluating, test tools or free tools that are out there, and then figure out how do we build that into the portfolio. And I think that is a way for big companies and small companies to really stay ahead of, technology and empower their workforce, right? Give your workforce an opportunity for them to learn new things and incorporate, and, cross-functional incorporation of these technologies will just help you drive things faster, for sure.
Thank you. And so Simone, you can focus on either the personal strategy or corporate strategy, and while others can also just look into the questions in the chat, and then after this question we can just go to what's our audience ask, and then address some of them. And Simone?
Yeah, not much was left for me to speak on this subject. These are incredible panelists. I'm sitting here taking my own notes. I think if we look at it let's look at it from a business perspective or an institution. McKinsey just did a study on the digital workplace. Are you offering career development? It's something that's really important to Gen Z, Alpha that's coming up. What are you offering me in skills? Compensation was actually 4th on the list. I kind of referenced it previously, but career development was number 1. And when you're looking at these new demographics, they want to, and they're more willing to change jobs quickly because they're also not following this kind of linear pathway of I'm going to be a manager, I'm director, We're changing all of that. How are you really looking at your workplace? What are you offering to excite people? And I love the fact that we've mentioned play so often in a conversation about the future of work, creativity, the future of work. I think if we talked about this 5 years ago, neither one of those words would have been at all a part of any kind of conversation. We are reaching a place where we need to recognize that technology is not just a product, it's a story that can change the culture of your workplace. How are you really, what are the benefits to ensuring that your staff is being upskilled? There's so many tools now that you can self-stat and upskill, but why not give your teams the opportunity to do that? I taught myself Java and Python on Google's development. I got a certificate. There's so many tools that you can self-stat, but I really think that from an institution point of view, or from a corporate point of view, businesses really need to be looking at this. How are you helping your teams? And when it's a smaller company like ours, I ask each team member to look at 5 different AI tools that they could possibly use. We research it, we play around with it. Which one do we land on? We have a minimum of 5 that we have to use. That's just something I want them to play around with. Sometimes they're not. And I think it's important because there is something we need to unlock. And when I think of the human mind, it's a mindset shift. We are not going, I do not believe we can be replaced. I tend to be very pessimistic. I believe in transferable skills. My background is fashion. I did not come from a technical background, but I was able to use my critical thinking and the transferable skills that I know, which is consumer journey, and the fact that the technologies that I work in are very exciting, and I'm able to connect them to similar consumer moments and similar operational moments and deconstruct it to create these types of the way that we look at technology or build technology. Transferable skills is something that I don't think we talk about enough, and we should, because there's no reason that if you are excellent, I'm just saying operationally, now you're going to be able to supercharge that because you're going to have 4 tools that are going to take away the things that you hate, as we've mentioned, and allow you to excel at the things you're incredible at. And with emerging technology, I'm just using myself as an example, without the things that are happening right now, I don't think I would have gone from fashion to Web3 and been able to create like just small fun story. I used to run Walmart's private label black wall business. So it was a 200 million private label business. 5 years later, I created a metaverse experience for them. I think this is the future of work, if we just use my trajectory as an example. And technology is really what is fueling that.
Awesome. And I think, again, now that's we probably have a very good strategy for both professionals and the corporate. And then I think from Keith and Simon, both of you mentioned about being intentional, right? As an individual, you need to be intentional because you need to excel. And as a company, you need to be intentional because your employee are looking for career development, jobs of future, and new type of opportunities. Then Kia, you mentioned about where to find the learning, right? And then very specific, how can you learn effectively? And then there are free resources, and then you find others to work, learning together is, critical. And Daniela, you gave a very concrete example that if you are a company that you can do small things like organize hackathon or organize a challenge task where that help your workforce to build a skill set, solve real world problem, and then make your organization as a future oriented organization, and then bring all your staff or workforce along with you. And I think those are very good strategies for companies and also for individuals. And I don't know whether you have looked into the questions. Anyone want to address quickly one question?
From the chat?
Yes. So for example, someone wants you to give each one of you give a takeaway, and there are also other comments regarding training certification piece, and then Anne also mentioned about how to just bring this to the early education, and where beyond the professional side, that's how education system can respond. So any comments before we end?
Great. I'll keep it brief. At Artemis, we've been fully remote and distributed from day one, pre-COVID, before it was fashionable. And so one of the things that AI is now doing for us is helping to strengthen that, the bonds that we have, the way that we communicate, the productivity that we can have. So, and both the CEO and myself are educators. We believe really strongly in the potential of folks, regardless of what their specific circumstance might be. We have a team member who has 2 special needs children. She also has a health issue. She can't sit in an office for 10 hours a day. She's one of our star performers because we were one of the first to use Slack. We are embracing AI. We're looking at things that can fill in those gaps so that she doesn't have to sit there and be on call for 40 hours a week. She can come in when she needs to. She can deliver, be an exceptionally high performer. And when she needs to attend to her kids or something happens at school, she can do that. So that's one of the ways that we believe that the future of work and the future of jobs is going to look a lot more like that rather than the fancy office building downtown that everyone spends 2 hours getting to and from. It's going to be a lot more targeted, a lot more when you need it, a lot more focused on the excellence, focused on the outcome, focused on the deliverable, less about the FaceTime and, and looking great and the water cooler. So that's where we think the rest of the world will probably catch up to us a bit more, and where we're investing in learning technologies to make us as effective as possible.
Thank you. And I think that is a very good closing remark from you. And each one of you maybe have 30 seconds to also, give your closing remark. Keith.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me at Publicis Group, what we're afforded with is access to incredible data that helps us do our jobs really well. And in fact, when we're injecting that into some of the generative AI tools we have at our disposal, this is really a lightning rod for efficiency and effectiveness at work. So what I would say to you all is be critical, but be inquisitive about what data can be provided to you on a day-to-day basis to do your job. We're going to be moving past the hunch and intuition phase and into the execution and extraction of insights from data. And the better us as humans we can do about extracting those insights from data, the better we'll be at our job. But start here and interrogate your company about what kind of data your company can provide for you at your fingertips to do your job most effectively.
Thank you. And Simone?
I'm going to keep it really simple. So be curious. I think everyone kind of touched on this. Be curious, be fearless. I think that there has to be a mindset shift. You're not being replaced. You have incredible skills. How can you supercharge those skills? And really just try. I think so many people right now, we are in a heavy hype AI, everything AI. There's not been a lot of intentional use cases. We're just throwing out the AI and seeing what's going to work. But I think as we move forward, especially 2024, we're going to definitely see more focused and strategic usage and initiatives. And so now is the time for you to understand, where do I want to play within this realm? And I continually say it, but be fearless. You're not being replaced.
Thank you. And Daniela.
So, and I'll just finish off. I agree with all the comments, but be deliberate, whether you're a corporate or whether you're individual, be deliberate of how you are looking at the technology. What is the end game and the goals that you have? And when you're, applying the technology, and, just be thoughtful of what it means to your colleagues, your employees, your ecosystem, and the partners and customers that you have. Don't just jump on a trend because everybody else is doing it. Be deliberate of how it's going to help you and the companies that you work for.
Awesome. And I think there are really a lot of great takeaways. Be curious, be deliberate, intentional, and then where that's you are on the driver's seat. And you meaning that you are a professional, you are corporate leaders, and you are on a drive seat, and then you can decide where you go. And I think this is a group that who can celebrate together with you and see they share their examples. And I think Simone's story about yourself and changing from fashion industry to becoming a technologist. And I think, basically everyone really can be anything you want to be if you are very intentional, determined. And then a company can be really just a different type of company if you also, want to leverage what is available to you. And I really appreciate this great conversation. Thank you, everyone. And we definitely are looking forward to bring you back to continue the conversation. And also thank you for our audience. And if we don't see others before our next conversation, happy holidays, and looking forward to our future conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays to all.
Thank you. Happy holidays. This was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, all. Thank you.
Thank you.